How does one build a world, construct a sense of wonder from the ground up? Coming to you from San Francisco at what has been rated the best escape room in the country, I give you Masters of Immersion, Allie Jorde and Elizabeth Sonder of Palace Games.
That would be super difficult, but there's got to be a way around it. We are, after all, inventing an entire world. It's a brain twister and it wakes you up in the middle of the night, but it's fun. It's what keeps me going.
Builder of fantastic devices.
This really is the best job in the world.
Most times does a guest say like, wait, this is real?
Did I actually come back into the real world or not? We all want that escape. These things, we want to make sure there's a balance.
I think like curiosity and like the sense of wonder. That sense of wonder, I think, is our biggest thing.
Yeah,
we'll be on the forefront.
We'll be there.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel Sky, the host of the Immersion Nation podcast. Here, the masters of immersive experience create and conjure, muse and imagine the cultural revolution that is unfolding before us. That is immersive entertainment. Welcome. Allie,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, most definitely. Briefly, as we're getting going here, could you guys say your names just briefly so that people who are listening can identify you guys by voice?
Sure. My name's Elizabeth. I'm the production manager and design engineer here at Palace Games.
Yeah, my name's Allie, and I run operations and HR and some business development as well.
She keeps us alive.
Elizabeth makes it, and I keep it running.
I love it. That's wonderful. So if you guys could live in any fictional world and have kind of whatever role in that world that you might want, what world would you choose to live in?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and I think I'm going to have to go with the Jumanji world. And I've got a couple reasons why,
Really?
obviously. Really. First of all, you get 3 lives in Jumanji, which I don't know what other fantasy world you get that in.
Oh man, I'd have used those up so quick.
But you'd be dead in any other world, right?
Yeah.
So I would still be alive. Plus, I also have the option, if I complete the task, whatever objective, and I'm super competitive, so I love the idea of just like constantly being in a game, I can return to this world. So I kind of get 2 worlds in one.
Interesting.
I also get a cool set of skills, whatever that might be. And I also feel like we don't know a lot about Jumanji, so there's a ton to discover in that world. And I could kind of make it my own.
You think you'd have like the dance fighting skill? Did you see the new
I do.
one?
Yeah. I just don't want to be Kevin Hart. I don't want to be
fair.
like exploding when you eat cake part.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, I feel like I would have badass skills. And that in the 3 lives is why I'm choosing Jumanji.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
All right, so I have to ask, where would you lean towards, old Jumanji or new Jumanji?
Most likely new Jumanji.
Yeah. Did you know The Rock is a huge nerd? We got to get him in here to play our game.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll reach out after he hears this.
Yeah, true.
Definitely. We'll tell him to. We'll send him your way.
Yeah.
And how about yourself?
Well, I was thinking, things like Disneyland exist, and that's nice. It's nice and safe. It's warm. It's happy. I think if I knew that I was going to be safe, I'd want to be somewhere like a Philip K. Dickion world, where everything is just twisted and bizarre, and you don't exactly know what's going on, and nothing makes sense, and you have to puzzle your way out. I think that'd be really super fun, but only if you knew you were safe, because I think that's the fun of these immersive experiences, right? Is that you go into these worlds and you can get lost in them, but not so lost that you actually feel like you're in danger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and for those listening, could you briefly explain a Philip K. Dickion world? Or potentially.
Oh, Philip K. Dick is a classic sci-fi writer. He wrote "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep," which gave us Blade Runner. I got into him from, what was the book? I can't think of it now. Anyway, classic sci-fi writer, fabulous. Go read him. He'll twist your brain in all kinds of weird knots.
That is excellent. I think the best fiction kind of shatters your ego and then slowly reassembles it bit by bit over the course of the time. So could you briefly describe the experience that is Palace Games, or potentially what is it that makes Palace Games really like unique in comparison to other escape rooms?
Yeah. Well, Palace Games, we're an escape room company. We also do like other escape style games. We're located in the Palace of Fine Arts here in San Francisco. So I think that's one thing that makes us really unique, is that we're in this historical location, this beautiful landmark. And we tie the history of this building, of the city, into our escape rooms.
Ooh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it makes it like, I think that adds to that immersive element, right? So like you're actually walking through the doors of the Palace of Fine Arts. We have, an original fireplace in one of the rooms. There's just these really cool elements that we get to like meld together. And then what Elizabeth does really just like is mind boggling.
So our three rooms that exist already are based off of people that were actually here in 1915 for the Pan Pacific International Exposition. So yeah, like Allie said, it really just adds to the immersive element because you can come in and there's an element of truth to this story that you're hearing.
Oh yeah, I guess all the time, we give our introduction, the story behind the room, and there is truth in the story, but then there is some legend that follows, and countless times does a guest say like, "Wait, this is real?" Like they add a lot, and we try not to dissuade them of that, the illusion, but it has this sense of truthness to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
And that's what we really want. We want people to go into these rooms and really feel like they've discovered something real and something amazing. The fourth room we're building right now, we're actually trying to leave them with an inkling of, wait a minute, did I actually come back into the real world or not? So we'll see if that works or not.
Ooh, I love that. And that I love that like you have that so immediately with the context of the museum as your backdrop there, because for so many immersive creators, it is a lot of that kind of beginning planning is figuring out how to get people to start believing in the world in one way or the other. And the fact that that question comes so quickly towards the beginning of the experience is just really incredible to me.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to be here. And as we, look to expand, we keep an eye on historical landmarks. We're all either history or sci-fi nerds here, so.
So to dig into the experience, the experience of being inside the rooms or any given room, as an overall, is there kind of a certain kind of experience that you're trying to give guests slash players? Like, what is the why uh, in that takeaway for them?
The why, meaning, what is their impetus? What are they doing there?
Um, or more on the takeaway side, like what kind of is there a certain perspective or a certain kind of mindset that you're trying to cultivate in those who participate?
Well, I know our founder would, if he were here, would say that we are trying to cultivate communication and teamwork amongst friends and allies.
But I also think like curiosity and like the sense of wonder, like how could they have done that? Like I think when you're building stuff, like we want, again, that word mind boggling. We want them to leave here like, okay, that was cool, like the history stuff, but like how the heck did shining light there, or did touching this thing, how did that happen? How did that trigger this kind of response?
How did they know I was standing in this particular spot?
Yeah.
How did this wall move?
Exactly. We want to leave them with like that sense of wonder, I think, is our biggest thing, of like leaving here and being like, that was cool. That experience was something I've never had before. And now I'm kind of more into the idea of how like tech and immersion kind of be part of my life.
On a personal note, if we can, inspire folks to go home and build stuff, then I'm all about it. Especially, I'm a big proponent for trying to get girls and women into science. And, we host tours sometimes and show them the back workings. And that's the kind of stuff that I really love, is, trying to get people inspired to, build their own and be creative.
Yeah. I think we both love the education angle. And I think we're really proud of the fact that our entire management team here is female.
It's true. Well, except for Chris.
Our owner is male, but all of our management are all females. And so we're big into supporting women in the arts, and sciences.
Most definitely. And another reason that I was really excited to talk to you guys in particular is like, I think it's very easy looking at STEM fields and kind of having an ambiguous idea of what that winds up looking like, what you can do with that. And the idea that you can go into some kind of tech, some kind of engineering, and then come out operating and creating things like escape rooms. Like,
Mhm.
it just kind of changes the paradigm around, what you can do with that skill set.
Oh, yeah. This really is the best job in the world. And I interned at we'll say a certain electric car company down south, who shall remain nameless. And I loved my team, but I hated every second of that job. It was so tedious. And I think discovering this really allowed me to incorporate my creative sort of abilities with my technical ones. And it was such an awesome find, and I want to make sure that other people know that there are jobs out there that allow you to use every single one of your skills. You just kind of have to look a little harder than, sort of the big engineering firms.
Mhm.
And a lot of people just get sucked into that. I mean, they're recruiting right out the doors,
Yeah.
They had a table set up at Berkeley,
We did not.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
It's a little harder to find, but it's worth the hunt.
Yeah, I like that one of our like job descriptions is just like builder of fantastic devices.
Mhm. Yeah. Maker of stuff. I
Oh,
think
that's
my
so
official
cool.
title is Grand Poobah of making stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's just so much opening up there.
Mhm.
And actually, on that note of creativity, um, and kind of the context of what escape rooms look like as workplaces, I'm wondering what do you guys see as the value of play?
Mm.
Oh, well, enormous. I mean, especially in this particular world we live in, people are so immersed in their devices. It's really important to get out of your device and actually interact with real human beings, people that you care about, people that you work with, and build those relationships and build those communication skills. I think it's vital.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say we do have a focus here like on team building and communication specifically because we're in San Francisco, so we have a lot of tech, so we do a lot of team building during the week. And so we build these rooms with that in mind. But I think for everyone, just the ability, we aren't when you're come to play the room, we don't force you to put your cell phone away, but we heavily suggest it. And it really has nothing to do with like you recording the room or using your flashlight. It's like we want you to be present in the room, for 90 minutes to just turn off and just be with the people in that room having those experiences together is a big thing that we're after.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. It's like I think that immersive experiences in all varieties just have this propensity to engage people and kind of demand
Mhm.
presence, maybe not the people who are coordinating a given experience demanding said presence, but just for the sake of actually participating, like you have
Right.
to actually be there
Yeah, and it restores a
in order
sense
to
of
get the most
wonder
out
in
of
the
it.
world that I think is lost after you stare at a phone screen for so many hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that wonder it's so vital to just kind of having appreciation for the vibrancy of life.
Mhm.
It I think escape rooms specifically do that incredibly well.
Mhm.
Just with that discovery dynamic that gets incorporated. It's
Absolutely.
really the thing that kind of drew me in to immersive in the first place, I think.
I think I have a teacher training background, and I remember in my teacher training years for little kids, I did high school, but for little kids, it's all about play, right? And then we lose that as we get older, just the idea of discovery of playing around. And I think that's really what these rooms do bring back. It's like you're in that room, you get to open things, you just get to interact with the space in a way that you do not when you're almost anywhere else.
Yeah.
You don't go over to somebody's house and just start like opening up cabinets and seeing what's there and like touching things, playing things. So
Trying to open their locks.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
unless
Yeah, yeah. Picking locks.
and some I think what I always find striking in that too is that watching groups come out of an escape room,
Mm.
you see that perspective sticks. Like you
Mhm.
see people walk out into a lobby or into the outside world and they just had this like heightened sense of curiosity where they're looking around like, oh, is this a puzzle? Oh, does this have
Mhm.
meaning? And kind of
Mhm.
dissecting things. And I mean, I think that that's so applicable to everything. You can understand things in one given way, but if you apply a little bit of that escape room investigative curiosity to things, you can get you have the opportunity to discover different layers of understanding to things that might seem blasé or mundane otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's why we have, so many people coming back to play other rooms and, and do it again, because it's, once you discover that kind of play.
Yeah, and also,
just want to repeat.
And it challenges the way that you think about things, right? Like, I can't tell you the number of people that come into the rooms and they overcomplicate things, or they, it just the puzzles themselves teach you to think about things from many different angles. Like teenagers actually sometimes blow my minds in these rooms because they can see a puzzle that it might take an adult 20 minutes to do with, and they just look at it from a different perspective. They're not stuck in a box in the way that they think, perhaps, and they can solve things really well sometimes. And that's always really fun to see.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that as well, actually. I mean, you always get asked, like, is this room kid friendly?
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously the degree to which that's true varies from room to room. But I would always kind of respond with, actually, they might wind up doing better than you in this room. The kind of creativity that comes out of the childlike mind, so to speak, really is a interesting thing to witness.
Hopefully we're restoring a bit of that every time people come to play.
Yeah, that's a good goal for us.
Yes. So at this point in time, would you guys be willing to transition briefly into the Make It Immersive segment?
Sure, absolutely. I defer to you, Elizabeth, on this one.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah, which one do you guys want to start with?
You want to talk through the rooms? Or
I think our goal here is to discuss how we would create our fantasy worlds into an immersive experience.
Well, probably the best way to explain the process is to just sort of explain what we're doing with our fourth room, I think.
Is that okay with you?
Fair, yeah. No, please.
Okay. So we have a design team. It's me and the owner of the company and two guys that are puzzle masters. And recently one more guy who's also a puzzle master, coder guy. And the group of us sit around and we talk these puzzles out for months and months and months before we even start building. Yeah, this fourth room that we're working on right now, the process started probably 3 years ago, and we're a year and a half into the build. So I think that's about right.
Maybe two. Because we were still building Edison 3 years ago.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we were talking out the fourth room when Edison was being built.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd already jumped in. And like right now, we're almost done building the fourth room. We're already talking about our next project. So the process kind of overlaps so that we're always moving forward. This fourth room, we're drawing heavily on sci-fi, which is really fun because it's sort of my favorite place to be. There are sort of a handful of stories that we're meshing together a little bit and then, filling in the cracks how we like. There's a lot of Wizard of Oz, Ready Player One, Ender's Game, Contact, Alice in Wonderland, 1984 in this room, which is super fun. Having that sort of literary reference to draw on is really exciting. It goes back to the stories of my childhood, and I get to sort of revisit and play with that. So that's cool. So once we sort of have settled on a storyline, the next thing to do is to interpret that into a space, and that's my job, is to take what we've decided in these design meetings and sketch it out into physical space, and then supervise a production crew to actually build it. So that's where I thrive. That's my favorite. The build process is really lengthy and complicated, and there's a lot of revisions involved, lots of mistakes, because we are, after all, inventing an entire world. It's not like there's a manual out there for how to build, I don't know, a rotating platform, for instance.
Yeah.
There's not a set of best practices for escape room design.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost every thing that's in the rooms is specially designed for the spaces and built for the spaces.
And we are trying to sort of standardize some of the things we do a lot, like, sensing where people are, what they're touching, those sorts of things. But it's fairly difficult to get, sort of a one-size-fits-all sort of sensor to be useful in all these various applications. Anyway, so now we're in the middle of building. We're probably about 85% done, I think, and it's been a year and a half build so far. Most complicated build that we've had. We've had welders come through. We've had mechanical engineers come through. We have one on staff. We have a coder on staff. I'm an electrical engineer, and we also have an electrician on staff. And it takes all of us full time.
And more, yeah.
And more.
And contractors.
And contractors here and there. There's a lot of art that goes into this room. We have an artist on staff who just makes everything beautiful so that when you're in this space, it doesn't just feel like a, boring room with buttons and dials or anything. It feels like a world, and that's really important. Mm-hmm. So not only is there a lot of engineering involved, but there's a lot of artistry involved. It's kind of a fun marriage of the two. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of different moving parts to assemble and put together.
Absolutely.
The design process, so many things inside of it.
Yeah, so and when we're building this... Sorry, go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, when we're building, when we're trying to figure out this story, we're trying to figure out how this experience is going to play out so that, not only do they get to experience this world, but they experience it in a finite set of time, which is really difficult to do with such a variety of players out there. So there you have it. That's our challenge.
So how would you take the Blade Runner world, just as an example that might be most accessible to listeners, and kind of incorporate that into that almost like that distorted or just like almost disorienting kind of texture into puzzles. Which I know is tricky because like you need a certain logic to puzzles in order to have people negotiate them. So how could you potentially instill that texture into that?
Okay, so if we're talking Blade Runner, do you remember the scene where she's running away because she's been discovered to be an android, and she's running through a mall, and it's sort of a dystopic sort of mall. Allie's shaking her head. You've never seen Blade Runner?
I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. Okay, go home and watch Blade Runner.
I'll be back in an hour and a half.
Yeah. So I would draw from that particular scene. I would look around, and probably go to the movie and pause it and look around and see, how they built a dystopia and what parts of those things, I could build and what could be interactive, like the strange clothing store. Perhaps there's a secret room in the back that they've been harvesting android parts and selling them on the black market, and you have to figure out how to get in there and save the androids.
And put on a certain piece of clothing that then senses.
Sure, there's RFID sensors, and you have to put them in a certain order to open the door. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Just kind of using the setting and the world itself to imbue that sense of chaos, and then giving little windows into, hey, this is why this world is kind of off a little bit, and you have to figure out the order inside of that in one way or the other.
Yeah, and a lot of times, when we're building these rooms, the environments write the puzzles. We have in the new room, we have a room within the room that is an alien world, and I don't want to give too much away, but basically, when we finished sort of figuring out what kind of space we wanted to build, we discovered what kind of puzzle should be in it. So there's kind of an interplay between the space and what you do in it.
Yeah, which is helpful because otherwise,
too many options. A blank slate. Yeah. Parameters. Designing within parameters is really important.
Breeds creativity. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and definitely speaks to another kind of dynamic of complexity in the design process there, because you have to have that back and forth, that those two different components evolve and play into each other. Can't just be like a a A, B, C sequence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what about Jumanji?
Yeah.
I'm curious because I know trying to capture outdoor worlds and very like organic texture worlds inside is a very tricky thing.
Oh, is it?
She's
how would you
laughing
think
because we're
that?
building something like that right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, first of all, there already is a Jumanji escape room down south in LA.
Is there really?
There is. I don't think it was open when we went down and did
Oh,
all
we
of
have
our
to go back
20
and
escape
play.
rooms. Yeah. I don't know what they've done. And I don't know what I would do since I don't build these rooms. But I do think, I mean, in the second one, they don't really use the game board, because it's like the game system. So you'd have to figure out, I don't know if you would use the game board still, and like roll the dice in the first one, and then whatever you get, some part of the room opens up and that's your game. And then you come back to the game board. Yeah. And then the next person rolls and whatever they get, then something else reveals itself completely different that, the monkeys. I don't know.
I mean, there's sort of a thread behind any good story, right? It's like the hero's journey, for instance. Of course. So you can take any story and sort of break it up into its stages and call those stages puzzles.
Yeah, exactly.
And then try and invent puzzles for each of those stages. No, that's one way to do it.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And I like the idea of having like rooms as kind of separate like mini games or worlds to dive into, because that's kind of what they are anyway.
It kind of is. Well,
embracing that context.
Yeah, we do that a lot in our rooms. We have mini puzzles that lead up to a meta puzzle. And what that does is it actually encourages collaboration, because first you have people sort of splitting off to sort out their little part, and then they all have to come together to solve the bigger one. So it's a really good driver of communication and collaboration.
And for those listening, the escape room lingo for that is called a funnel model. So you have all these different things, and if you diagram it or map it out, it winds up looking like a funnel where everybody points down to that more central puzzle.
I did not know that.
Good to know.
I'm going to bring that up in a design meeting.
Or at least that's
Throw
what
it
I've
out
heard
so casually.
Guess what I learned, guys?
Yeah. But to your point about bringing an outdoor world in, it's definitely challenging. And I know Elizabeth that was a big part. It's a part of this next room.
Yeah.
And it has certainly been a challenge.
It's kind of the finale, actually. And
is it?
Yeah. It's enormous and difficult and fabulous. You'll just have to come play to see.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can definitely promise that. It's tricky. It's the constant conversation around kind of all immersive experience. Like, how do you make the edges of a place disappear? Like, they have to be there enough that people don't run into walls, either literally or metaphorically, but still vague enough that you don't interface with it directly.
But honestly, that's one of the most exciting things about designing escape rooms is discovering what those parameters are and then trying to reconcile them with your creative vision. So I want an outdoor space, but it has to be indoors. How do I make that happen? And it's a brain twister, and it wakes you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
but it's fun. It's it's what keeps me going.
Yeah, most definitely. Huh. I have the idea of the dice in the board game inside the game or inside the room running through my head still, just because I feel like it's like you want to, within creating an experience, just like dissolve the game feeling and kind of create the puzzles as this organic component. But instead of doing that, just embracing it like, no, actually, this is a game inside of the game, and your job is to engage with this, and just being okay with the fact that there's this direct interface.
But you don't want to give them actual dice, because then they'll lose them or put them in their pocket. So I'm thinking a giant button like Trouble, and they all have to lean on it to get it to pop, right?
See, good teamwork.
I think that's good.
But it also gives them some semblance of control, right? Whatever they roll, that's what they're getting. Yeah.
But then how do you design a puzzle around uncertainty like that? That's really difficult.
That's fun for you. I just give you a great problem.
Ooh, that's super fun.
Yeah. All right, coming at you.
I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm getting ideas.
Yeah, it's like so the antithesis of that design process in so many ways, because instead of imbuing or like using, a controlled context, you are specifically embracing the chance component, which I can't even imagine how tricky that would be.
That would be super difficult, but there's got to be a way around it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, when you when you look at the parameter of time, right? We only have a 2-hour window when, with which to get this team in and get the next team in after them.
Ideally.
You kind of have to pipeline people a little bit, but you don't want them to feel like they've been pipelined.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge design problem. So far, so good.
Yeah. And speaking of that, kind of subconscious guiding there, the idea that you want to point people in a direction and keep people in a flow without having it feel like it necessarily. So the whole thing kind of becomes this homogenous, fluid experience. I've been incredibly fascinated with. Have you guys encountered the Void at all?
The Void. I haven't played the Void. Chris has played the Void. He talks about it a lot. It's the one where
I have not played it either yet.
What is it? It's so basically they have a modular setup. So you go and you play a room, and if you if it's green, you can go in. There's a light over the door. Yeah. It's green, you can go in, you play the room, and if you solve it in the 20 minutes, then a door opens up to the next room, and they're like in these little chains. If you don't solve it, then you get booted out, and then the next person gets to go in and try.
Oh,
is that right?
That I know what you're talking about there. The Void, that might also be called the Void. The Void I'm referring to was is the mixed reality / virtual reality experience.
Oh.
And the context for bringing that up is one of the co-founders has some experience in magic, like stage magic.
Oh, great. Cool.
And he has a couple of videos where he talks about kind of some of the techniques they use to create illusions in an experience that, like, say an infinite hallway, where like if you have a hallway that curves subtly enough, it can feel like an infinite hallway because you automatically, like, your proprioceptive senses just like kind of correct to the slight curve of it without you noticing that you're curving.
Right.
And as such, you always wind up, you have an infinite hallway to use. You have a theoretically infinite amount of space. And just like the little tricks that you can do they're perception tricks that you can use to kind of do as a mechanic in the game.
Sure.
I find that
makes a lot of sense.
super interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically theater, right? Except instead of watching people up on a stage, you're on the stage playing out the story. So it makes sense to have a theater background or a performance background to build these worlds. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was, before I was an engineer, I was in costuming for the circus. So I don't know if that's relevant, but there's
it definitely somehow
theater background.
Yeah, I'm sure it comes through and finds its way or surfaces in what you do in some ways, one way or the other.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of immersive experience, right? The circus.
Yeah. So, could we potentially jump into a few rapid fire questions? And the questions are somewhat brief. The answers don't necessarily have to be, but
sure. Mm-hmm.
Right on. So I'm curious, what do you guys tell the uninitiated about immersive experiences / escape rooms? People who just have no context, have never even heard of escape rooms in general. How do you kind of go about the problem of explaining that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first we tell them the rules.
And then they ignore them.
And then they may interpret that as us just lying to them that they should do everything that we just told them not to do. No, what we do with new players is I kind of explain how it's going to work. And I let them know that our rooms are more interactive than most. So upon completing something correctly, the room will
tell you.
Yeah, the room will react too. So like if you've done something right, you will know that you've done something right because the room will reveal something, make a noise.
Taste light.
Yeah. So I give them that. And then I also tell them that the clues have been written in a very specific way to help them. And if they ever feel lost, that they should go back to their written instructions, because most of the time people ignore that. They get really excited and then they might read something once, but again, the wording is done so specifically to help them that they kind of just buzz right over it. So those are my usual things, is that the room will react to you. There are the rules about not breaking things, and then that instructions are there to help you.
That's from the practical side. I mostly tell my friends and family it's kind of like a live action video game.
Yeah.
As best I can describe.
No, I like that. Specifically just like for people who aren't necessarily already there and just being like, okay, this is a live action video game. People understand video games,
Right.
but
Yeah.
using that as the lens to explain it.
Luckily, we're now in a place where most people know what an escape room is.
Oh yeah, 3 years ago, nobody knew.
Yeah. And that was always really fun.
It's
explaining.
crazy to me how quickly the escape rooms as a phenomena have kind of bloomed and blossomed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It used to be, oh, you build escape rooms? Are those like panic rooms you can go into if somebody's breaking into your house? No.
Or people would think that it was a form of, it is adult entertainment, but they would conflate it with a different kind of adult entertainment. And those days are long gone.
I've not encountered that one before.
Bless.
Yeah. So.
And maybe where you guys are, but
it is San
definitely
Francisco.
up to 2 months ago. It was like I would still get the calls, like be sitting at the desk or like the front desk and just get that call that is, so what are you?
Yeah.
Like, well, you see.
Mm-hmm. I still get those
one guy
phone
was
calls.
very, very convinced it was a hotel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a Palace Hotel in San Francisco. I get that sometimes too.
Oh, dang.
No.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's got to make everything easier.
Yeah, it makes every day interesting.
But we love a challenge.
We love it. We do love a challenge here.
And then using that to be like, well, we're not a hotel, but we do have rooms.
Mhm.
So while you are at the Palace Hotel,
Yeah.
there are other palace-y things that you could come and check out.
Exactly.
As well.
You kind of rent our room for like an hour and a half.
But not like that.
Yeah, but not exactly.
Way cooler than a pay by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
So what is one immersive experience that you're particularly excited about the potential of outside of what you guys are working on? If there's anything immediately that comes to mind.
Ooh. I can tell you that I'm really excited for virtual reality, the technology to actually catch up with the imagination. Because I know here in the industry, we're all really excited to start incorporating virtual reality into the rooms, but it's not there yet.
No,
it's totally not there. And it would be more of a disruption if we were to put it in now.
The rooms that we've done together that had that, I did not care for the headset on my face.
Yeah, it's awkward, it's cumbersome, it takes you out of the moment as opposed to putting you in it. So it totally defeats the purpose. Yeah. But once that tech actually gets to a point where we can actually execute what we're imagining, oh, that's going to be amazing.
Good answer.
Yeah. It's like that the friction there insofar as creating experiences with VR is definitely pretty high at the moment. I'm excited to see that barrier of entry drop down a little bit as well.
Yeah. Honestly,
have you guys encountered
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you guys have encountered Wolves in the Walls or the work that Fable Studios is doing.
No.
Mm-mm.
They created it's based on a Neil Gaiman story. And they went very deep into designing a character that you could actually interact with. So as opposed to interacting with a VR environment, actually creating a character that would somehow kind of just like interact with you and respond to what you do and how you interact with them. Actually, no, and that's the thing.
Oh,
so they had to go through the whole process of building that out, and that I think speaks to crazy potential because obviously, like having some escape rooms use actors in the rooms,
right?
I mean that creates a series of logistical considerations as well. But the idea of like potentially having a character of some variety in a room through VR or AR, it's like, oh, that would open so many doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that sounds fun.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Why do you think that immersive entertainment resonates so deeply with those who participate? And I know this is somewhat reminiscent of a little bit what we chatted about earlier there. But insofar as through what means do people access kind of being willing to step out of their world? Obviously, like there's this side that like, you want to imbue curiosity, you want to open up these doors for people. But what do you think that it means for participants to let go of standard reality, I suppose, might be the best way to put that.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we're all wanting to do that at all times. So and when you step into a place that gives you that kind of permission,
Yeah.
it's automatic. I mean, you step into Disneyland and you let everything go. You step into, one of our escape rooms
Yeah.
and, you'll let most of it go because it's only 2 hours. But, it's the same sort of thing. Is that we all want that escape
Yeah.
at all times. And to step into a place that gives you permission to immerse yourself in a new world is, it's just a delight.
Well, in our like motto here, our tagline, whatever, is escape to play, play to escape. So obviously the first part is you're going into that room, your objective is to play to escape, but they also that you're in that play, you're also going to be escaping, any of your worries, the outside world, stress at work, yada, yada, yada. But you're in that room, you're present, you're with those people, it is that group social activity. So you do get to escape whatever might be on your mind or anything like that for at least an hour and a half here. So
Most definitely. And your guys' perspective on that is very interesting in relation to like speaking with a lot of people who do social immersion and work with specifically the the acting side and using that as a medium versus environmental immersion. And I think that the idea that everybody wants to escape and just it's a matter of tapping into that is something that like the ethos of escape rooms makes a little bit easier there, because then you take something that's a little bit more ambiguous insofar as how to explain exactly what's going on inside of it. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you're trying to give me permission, but I'm not exactly sure still what I'm doing. And escape room gives a much more concrete context and be like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready. I know I have some sense of what I'm going into.
Yeah,
like, here
you
to
can
play.
dig in more to the escape in an escape room because you have instructions on how to do so.
Yeah, I actually think you've tapped into something really important, which is that you don't want to dump somebody into a world without any instruction at all, because that's not fun.
Yeah.
It's being completely confused and stuck is not fun.
That one escape room we did together.
Oh yeah, that was
down
awful.
south. I think
so you want to, when we're building these things, we want to make sure there's a balance and it's sort of an adjustable balance depending on who's in there and how they're doing for, what information is available to them, so that, they feel like they have agency over their experience and don't ever feel completely stuck. Just stuck enough, but not so stuck it's
that's
not
a
fun
fun
anymore.
dilemma for the front of house, in that we have all different kinds of people coming through, from puzzle enthusiasts to new timers to CEOs to teenagers, and how to best host them is really about how you don't want the instructions in the room to be too easy, but some people need that extra access, and so how do you provide them with that, either through an extra hint or through a worksheet that wasn't available that you somehow provide to them. It's a fun challenge.
Yeah, and from a design perspective, how do you design these puzzles so that they are adjustable in the first place? It's fun.
Yeah,
most definitely. So as we are coming up towards the end of our conversation here, I have one more question, and then we'll talk about where people can find your work and everything that you're doing. But just as a potentially good cap point, I'm curious what, from your perspective, you both see as the potential impact for immersive experiences on kind of the broader culture as a whole, as a very, very different medium of entertainment than our culture has really been exposed to before.
Well, there is already sort of an emergent culture around escape rooms. There's a whole community of escape room enthusiasts, and they all know each other and have social platforms together, and experience conferences together where they do pop-up escape rooms and go on trips where they travel around and play every escape room that's available.
Yeah. Or like the MIT puzzle hunt, like they're just like these big things in the community.
Yeah. So it's, escape rooms has sort of invented a community, or rather filled a void where a community needed to happen, I guess.
But in the long term, like in the future, I think that's a very niche market. You know what I mean? I mean, I know lots of people now know what escape rooms are and maybe have had an experience, but in 30 years, I don't know what it's going to look like. If it's going to still look like a room, or if it's going to look like something completely different. More of a world within a world, I
guess that depends on what tech's available to us.
We'll let you know, though. We'll be on the forefront.
We'll be there.
Definitely. No, I would very much love to hear what that evolves into, and how that all changes on your guys' front.
And I would say our owner, head designer, Chris Alden, is definitely thinking about that.
Yeah, with our next project, we're trying to push the boundaries of what we do here and how we do it, and make an experience that's different than just coming into a room and solving, what's in front of you. We'll see. We'll see if that works. I'm sure it will. It'll be brilliant.
We'll make it work.
It's going to be perfect. What could go wrong?
Do you guys have a projected opening date for your fourth room, out of curiosity?
We're looking at the end of August, hopefully.
Let's say fall 2019.
Yeah, let's
make it a little bit more broad.
Give me a little buffer.
2019.
Yeah. We'll run with that. We'll probably start beta testing in September, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. And from there, where can our listeners find what you guys are doing, and reach out to say hi or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, you can either find us if you're in San Francisco and you happen to be walking around the beautiful Palace of Fine Arts. You can find us on our location, or you can find us at our website, www.palace-games.com.
Chris also bought palacegames.com.
We finally just got the domain for a non-hyphened Palace Game, so that would be www.palacegames.com.
Either will get you there.
Yeah. Or, we have social media, Palace Games on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. And if anybody's listening and has tech questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Oh, yeah.
You can reach me at production@palacegames.com.
We're happy to do tours for people. We've done a couple of educational things with different schools, all ages.
Yep.
Yeah, and we just love what we do, and we want to share it. We have so much knowledge about this very specific industry that any chance for us to spread that around, we're happy to do.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And of course, Stanford and The Rock, if you guys are out there listening, give them a shout.
Yeah. Also Pixar, Lucasfilms, we'd love to talk to you guys.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Once again, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you guys taking the time, and it has been a lovely chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. And we would look forward to hosting you in San Francisco anytime.
Yeah, please come play.
Oh, most definitely. I don't have a trip scheduled as of yet, but
not yet. But the fourth room opening.
Yeah, keep us posted.
Yeah.
Most definitely. All right. Have a wonderful afternoon, you guys.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
And of course, you can find the detailed show notes on immersionnation.com/podcast. And until next time, thank you for listening. Calling all immersive adventurers, explorers, connoisseurs, and artists. The immersive revolution is just beginning. All that is to say, we would love any feedback that you might have on the show. What do you want to hear more of, less of? Anyone in particular you'd like us to have on the show? I would love to hear your thoughts. So please rate us, review us, or just drop us a line on the website at immersionnation.com. I always love having conversations about this wide and wild world that we are both living in and creating. Once again, this is the Immersion Nation podcast. Thank you for joining us in this adventure.